Hello, everyone. In this 40k Yap session, just be might be a little bit quicker, not too sure. It's just gonna be my thoughts on, I guess I'd say like rules centralization for 40k. And what I mean by that is, I mean more like, when you need to go reference rules, like what do you have to go sift through to find everything that is that pertains to your faction. If you're playing Space Marines, or if you're playing against like Tyranids or something. Now, I do know that as of recently, I think it was either today, like early in the morning today, or last night, GW did like reorganize and I guess consolidate their I think it's their community download page for like where their erratas and FAQs and like legends documents and whatnot are located. I do think that that's ultimately a good thing from what I know of the consolidation there. But that's partly not what I'm referring to. Like that's a good thing. Like what they did over there, and like from what I understand of what was done today, good stuff, right? I think it's a good like first step towards making it not as I'd say like annoying to find particular things. But I do think that GW could still do something better, or do better with digital rules. Number one is, I think that them, keeping digital rules on the Warhammer app, which I believe is only accessible via your phone. I think that that's dumb. I think they could benefit greatly from allow, like, if you buy a physical codex, like if they were to still sell physical codexes and still want to do the whole, you have a code and you use it and that code is located on the book, that's fine. But make it to where, like, okay, when you input that code and your Warhammer account has access to the Space Marines codex because you bought the Space Marines codex, allow the person, the owner, right, of that codex to look at it online. Like, look at it on their Warhammer account in their library. Now, I'm not too sure if you can do that currently. Like, I do own the Emperor's Children codex, but from last I recall, when I tried to interact with it online, I couldn't look at it on my desktop. I had to go into my phone through the Warhammer app to look at the units, the detachments, the stratagems, the enhancements, all that. An immediate example that I think of that GW could, now maybe not fully replicate, but they could look at and be like, oh, take some notes, would be Wizards of the Coast with D&D Beyond. Now, say what you will about Wizards of the Coast, that's neither here nor there. You can look at D&D Beyond and go, okay, well, at least everything like supplement wise and core like game rule wise for like magic items and condition descriptions and spell effects and player character options, it's all more or less centralized in D&D Beyond. Yes, you still need to purchase access to whatever year, player handbook for 5th edition, but if you already have that stuff, if you already bought bought it off of D&D Beyond, then okay, cool, you have access to it. And on top of that, whenever things in on there are updated, they are updated, as far as I can tell, like basically immediately. Now, I think that Games Workshop, Warhammer 40k, or Kill Team, Age of Sigmar and whatnot could benefit from something like that, where it's like you have a centralized kind of like portal, I guess you could say, that maybe has a list building up, like list builder, like similar to New Recruit. And of course, if you have the books, you can reference them via that site, via this portal. Now, yeah, then that obviously brings up the whole thing of, oh well, would that stop people from using third party sites or resources like Wahapedia or New Recruit or some others? And truthfully, I think the answer is no. because the thing that both Wahapedia and New Recruit do that GW will probably never do is give that kind of service for free. Like you don't have to spend money to access New Recruit or to access Wahapedia to look at the rules or to engage with building a list for whatever faction you're playing or you want to play. But the fact of the matter of that, like the fact that you can reference all the rules through Wahapedia without having to spend was like $40 per codex on top of the core rulebook just to know the rules or to be able to reference them, that's invaluable, right? People, and it's all centralized. Yes, doesn't have an, as far as I know, it doesn't have an app or that, but nothing stops you from going onto your desktop browser and and opening it up. Yes, if you're using a browser that doesn't have an ad blocker or whatnot, you're gonna see a lot of ads, and the same thing as I think with New Recruit. But if you're using a browser like Brave or you have an ad blocker, that's not really an issue, and it doesn't stop you from going onto your phone and like using your phone browser, whether that be Brave, Google, Safari, whatever have you, and bringing up Wahapedia, and so that way you can reference, oh, this is what this enhancement does, or this is what these core rules do. And on top of that, like on the topic of the phone thing, New Recruit has an app on iOS, and I believe it also has an app on Android. You can list build there. You can look at what your detachment does, unless you're a supporter and you support New Recruit. You can't look at stratagems, which is unfortunate. But you can basically look at and interact with everything that you realistically would need to, for the most part, like building your list. And I really think that in the case of GW side of things, with like maybe further consolidating stuff online and taking a page out of what D&D Beyond has done, they would have to provide that kind of service where it's like it does what Wahapedia sort of does and does what New Recruit does, but obviously because it's Games Workshop, they're gonna charge you for it, or they're gonna rope it into the Warhammer Plus subscription. I personally, just my perspective on it, I think the rules of games, whether that be core rules or like the rules for playing whatever faction, those shouldn't be something that you pay for, right? You can just access it. And we know that, and it's not any weird Herculean thing to think that, oh well, GW get most of their revenue from codex sales. I doubt that. Honestly, I think that their selling of plastic gray miniatures is where most of their sales comes from, or most of their revenue comes from. Not to say that the codexes and the datasheet cards and all of that is an insubstantial amount of revenue gained, but like if they want people to get into it, like if like myself, I'm gonna use myself as an example in this Yap session. Myself, I was into 40k well before getting into like the whole, I wanted to try 40k. I was into the setting, into the IP, had passing knowledge and familiarization with Space Marines, with Chaos, with the different Xenos factions. And when it came to playing, like, I want to try playing this game, I then came into the whole like unfortunate thing of like, man, like you kind of do have to buy a lot of stuff just to begin to play. And that's not even talking about like a 2,000 point game. I'm just saying, I personally, like, just like a 500 point or Combat Patrol game. Yeah, if you buy the Combat Patrol box, it comes with the rules. That's not the point. The point is, it's like, if I started with Space Marines, which is what I started with, I'd have to buy the codex, I'd have to buy the core rulebook, and then of course the models, the paint, the tools, all that. And then of course, expanding out from there, it's more models, more paint, or different models for a different faction and a different codex and all that. And it does become very quickly expensive. Now that's not any different than like, Dungeons and Dragons, right? Where you have to buy the player's handbook to, as a player of the game, not as a dungeon master, as a player, play the game. But that's a one-time purchase. You buy the 2014 or 2024 player's handbook for D&D 5th edition, and okay, cool, you can play it. That's it. Regardless if you're buying it physically or you're buying it digitally through D&D Beyond, you buy it. Okay, cool. Now yes, completely two different types of games. One's a tabletop RPG. One's a tabletop war game. Completely two different genres of tabletop games. I understand that, but still, I can buy the material for one thing, and yeah, it's expensive, especially when you look at further future supplements for D&D, and it's like, oh, these are, when if you buy all of them, really expensive. And as someone who bought the books twice, because I had bought some of them physically and then I decided to buy what I already owned and more on D&D Beyond to have them digitally, yeah, that's expensive. But the great thing is, once I buy it, cool, great, I don't have to worry about it. I can always refer back to the 20 whatever handbook or whatever supplement and be like, okay, cool, I can use this, I don't have to worry about this, and go about my day and play the game. And luckily, I also don't need miniatures and whatnot to play Dungeons and Dragons. But with 40K, if you're playing it in person, you're not playing it through Tabletop Simulator, like how I've been, just because that's more approachable for myself. Um, it's very very expensive. The cost definitely does add up, and I think that for GW's sake, with like the rules and not only centralizing it, making more of like a portal, they could benefit greatly from making the rules, for the sake of playing the game, more accessible. Like number one is centralize where everything is like located and you interact with it. So something similar to like a D&D Beyond like portal slash like character creator uh, web page. I would say that that's like number one. Number two would be um, make the rules something where, because of how often they're updated, because they're updated every 3 months, make them more accessible, or at the very least, just make them, if not more accessible, just cut the price down further, right? If not, if you don't make them free, make them cheap, make it really cheap, and then. Although I don't think that they would ever do this, because the whole balance status like every 3 months is something that they've been doing. I think if they're going to continue doing that, then for number three, their best option would be, at least in my opinion, just go full digital with the rules for the factions. Don't make don't have the codexes be like physical codexes be something that's where you get your factions rules from. Like if they're going to make physical codexes, have those be something where it's like there's art, there's art for the whatever faction, there's short stories, there's maybe like little tips and tricks or like neat little interactions that you could do in the game, but no rules, no data sheets, none of that. Just cut the codexes down, the physical codexes down to, this is where you get your fluff and your art and your little lore blurbs that may be relevant or maybe not relevant, and all that. And then online, through the digital space, whether through the Warhammer app on your phone or through the Warhammer store page, you can buy the rules for your army for, let's just say like $10. That's 10 US dollars, and that's probably like dirt cheap. And GW would never do that, but you could, and then you would have access to it. I think that that'd be a great thing. I think ultimately that would stuff. It wouldn't get rid of things like Wahapedia or New Recruit, but I think that if GW really did want to go after those things, they need to provide a better service than than those two sites. Not even just those two, but just like that's like they would need to provide a better service than what those sites or other services provide. And more than likely, that's not going to happen. Or if it does happen, they're going to rope it into their Warhammer Plus subscription and try to nickel and dime people for more money than they already do with re-releasing certain Space Marine characters or the 30th new Primaris Lieutenant model, you know. So, but with that, guys, that's gonna be it for my yapping today. Once again, you know, feel free to say I'm stupid and wrong. You know, I only have experience with 10th edition. I do think I do truly stand by the thought that I think the rules for the game, core rules for the game, and the rules for the armies should be free. They should be accessible to everyone. Especially just given the cadence that the game is updated. Even if the balanced status slates don't have large sweeping changes every time that one happens, it is the fact that those can happen or certain small rewrites can have a larger cascading effect can happen. I do think that they should be free. But with that, I hope you guys enjoyed my yapping. I know these videos don't tend to do very well, and most people tend not to watch these or care. But they're just some thoughts and getting stuff out just to I guess I'd say vent, but just like hey, this is something that's on my mind. I might as well yap about it and have the camera on. So I hope you guys are having a great time wherever you might find yourself, whether you're at work, you're at school, or you're on your way home from those to have a good time. If you're not having a good time, well, I hope things can turn around, get better for you. And with that, I hope till the next time, guys. See you next time. Peace.